Hi, and welcome to It's the Hard Work People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. This podcast is about people finding their passion and walking in their purpose. This podcast is for people that's looking to create a better life for themselves, people who want strategies to move forward. And today I am excited to have with me Adrian Henning from Henning Homes. He is the CEO and founder of Henning Homes. And Henning Homes is a company that helps families find their best place to live. So today he's going to talk to us about where the real estate market is right now and why we should continue to look at purchasing real estate because real estate is always a good value. So I'm excited to have Adrian with us today. So at this time, Adrian, if you can introduce yourself and tell us, why did you start Henning Homes?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on. This has been a few months in the making, and
Yes.
I'm glad to be on here with you. I'm Adrian Henning. I've been in Memphis for over 25 years. I'm originally from Jackson, Tennessee. I went to Austin Peay State University and finished up my degree there in finance. I went overseas, played 12 years of basketball, professional basketball overseas. Came back home and I got into real estate. And what fueled my passion was growing up. I always watched my mom, and she was always into those. She was a big gardener, so she watched a lot of HGTV.
Okay. Yeah.
And I watched a ton of like shows like Design on a Dime, and like how they could just recreate like a real nice home and the person budget might be $500 or $3,000, and they'll try to do the best they can to make the one house look just as good as the model home, so to speak. And I was always intrigued by that. And I didn't really know it then, but I love that show. And and I guess maybe I grew to love it because she wouldn't let me watch nothing else because she had it on that channel. And then fast forward, as I started later in my basketball career, I started thinking about like what I wanted to do. I knew I made a decent amount of money, but it wasn't like the NBA players' money now that they can just they don't have to do anything for the rest of their life if they don't want to, as long as they save a little bit of money. Um, I started studying, I started reading different books and stuff in my travels, and I just seen that a common thread was that a lot of people were, a lot of moguls and people who, did really well for themselves, like Warren Buffett and people of that nature, they all had holdings in real estate. They all invested in real estate or had some kind of holders or involvement in it. So me looking into a world that I wanted to go into after I played basketball, I looked at it like, real estate would be something that I could definitely, do and as a path to be successful down the road. And along with that, I was noticing that it wasn't a lot of financial literacy, in the Black community, just in our community, just being real. A lot of people don't know
Absolutely.
the ins and outs of credit and bank accounts and different things you can do with stocks and stuff like that. And so I felt like it'd be a good place where I could, be a help to a lot of people. And I liked working with people. I knew thing about working with people and no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, working with people gives you that variety and that, variables day to day on, how, you never know what to expect or what a person's gonna say. So I just looked at that as always a challenge and a privilege. So here I am today, and I've been doing it, 7 years, going on 8 now, starting my 8th year, and it's been a great decision. I'm very happy with it, and I've helped a lot of people.
Man, that is awesome. Well, you told me several things I didn't know. I didn't know that you had played basketball overseas. I figured you'd played because when I met you, I had to look up, and I'm 6'6". And when I just Googled you, I saw that you were the 6'7" realtor.
Yep, yep,
I said,
yep.
okay, so I got to look up an inch when I talk to her. But I didn't know
Right.
you had played ball overseas, and that's awesome that while you were playing ball and traveling, you began to look at what's my next step. And you
Mm.
looked at people who were already in the market. Now we know that Warren Buffett, you were looking big. You went for the very best if you were studying Warren Buffett,
Right.
and you said, "Hey, if his money is in real estate, there's got to be a good place to go." And the second thing that stuck out is you mentioned your mom and that she's an avid gardener, and the fact that she watched HGTV and that's what she made you watch, and it's a gift that she gave
Mm-hmm.
you. That's
Mm-hmm.
a gift that she gave you. Not that watching other shows are bad, but it's better than watching just primetime TV all the time.
Right,
You were
right,
learning a
exactly.
skill.
Yeah,
I enjoy.
my mom was very big on like she didn't want me to watch stuff that she felt like was gonna bring my vibration down. We didn't know about that stuff when we were younger, like vibrational foods and stuff like that. But she didn't want to watch just stuff that people just being silly all the time.
Absolutely.
And if you let us, we'll watch cartoons and silly stuff all
And
day long.
foolishness
But she
all
was
day.
more, and she was more like, "No, you're gonna watch something that got a little substance to it as well. That's gonna
That's
teach you a
beautiful.
lesson or got a message in it or something like that."
That's beautiful. And there was a gift that she gave you, and it led to this career. So that's awesome. And any parents that's living know that if you don't have a skill that you can give your child, all TV is not bad. I grew up on PBS. That was the Discovery Channel back in the day, or the HGTV,
Mhm.
which PBS is still good. But that's what I watched a lot of. So parents,
Mhm.
so just know that when you're watching TV, there are plenty of constructive things out there that you can watch with your children that can sow into them. So thank you for sharing that. So let's get into it then. You're with Kaiser Realty, you say?
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
your broker?
Kaiser
Oh,
Realty located in Germantown, Tennessee.
okay, that's what's up. So we know where to find you.
Yes.
Tell us where is the real estate market right now? What's happening out there right now? We know at one point all of the prices they were ballooning. Those of us who owned homes, we were extremely excited because we got more equity in
Yeah.
our homes. But for people who were purchasing home at one point, uh, I'm glad that you decided to go into real estate. And another thing that you said about real estate is that there was not a lot of financial literacy about purchasing property in the Black community. So it's awesome that you found several reasons that you wanted to do this. One, first of all, it's a lucrative market that you can help yourself and provide a good future for you and your family. But two, you wanted to help other people.
Right.
And when you own real estate, I tell you, they're not making any more property. They may build more houses, but land is there. So when you own a little piece of land, you've purchased something. So tell us, where is the real estate market right now? We know that at one point, you couldn't hardly buy a home because corporate brokers were out just snatching up lots of them, offering $20,000 and $30,000 above asking price. So where's the market right now
Mhm.
for the regular retail purchaser that's looking for a home?
Well, the market is still kind of in the idling phase and is trying to figure out where it wants to. Coming from the pandemic, like that you were, mentioned just a moment ago, when the interest rates were, low as they could possibly be, that caused, the prices to go up higher. It was a lot of buyers in the market. It was a lot of competition. And that's what fostered a lot of people, paying over this price with such regularity. Fast forward to now, when the interest rates creeped up a little bit, it caused the market to stagnate a little bit. And so what we're in right now is where the market is, the interest rates went up to about 7 to a 7.5, almost 8% in some instances. And so in being in Memphis is already, not a high income city. So then when you look at not only the interest rates going up, that's raising the cost that your monthly mortgage would be, but also just the general inflation place after the pandemic where your gas went up, your, milk and eggs and all your groceries, they also increased.
Yeah,
So it really affected the buying power of a lot of the citizens in the area, to the point where now in Memphis, there's only a 25% of the population in this metro area that owns a home. And at one point, it was around closer to 30%. But just over the last few years, the home ownership rate is dropped dramatically. And I think the factors being is, the prices going up. And then also, when you look at the median income here in Memphis, the median income is around 50 to 60,000. So if you're a single person and you're making $50 to $60,000 a year, then you are only going to probably be qualified for around 125 to 150, at best $175,000. And in Memphis, that doesn't necessarily put you in one of the prime time areas. That when you think about living in Memphis, you think, most people think about Cordova or Bartlett or Arlington or Collierville. And in none of those places, really, you can buy a home at $175,000 price point. So if you're a single with children, it's very difficult for you to be able to buy. And I think that's contributed to the home ownership numbers being down. But I don't want to be all, down on it. There is a lot of things we could do about that, which we will discuss on this thing. But the current state is the interest rates have reduced down now to around 6.5%, which means that there are more people coming into the market now. And I think as the election cycle continues to go and we get a new president or more of the same, I do think next year the interest rates will dip down a little bit more. And I think it'll be a little more favorable time. I would think right now, all the way through like next year would be a good time to jump in. So it's kind of not as good as it was as far as interest rates and buying power, but there are still plenty of deals that you can make.
Okay, that sounds great, man. Something you said that really piqued me. You said that there's 25% home ownership in Memphis.
Yes.
And so the other 75% is rental.
Pretty much renting, Section 8, or some combination of that.
So 75% of the housing. I'm trying to make sure you're saying. Are you not saying 25% of the people buying? You're saying 75% of the housing inside Memphis proper.
Well, there 25% is owned by like regular people. Now you do know like a lot of real estate is probably owned by corporations, by the city, and other entities. So it's stuff that's owned, but it's not owned by just
By
like a person
citizens.
like you and me. Yeah, just like people like you and me. It still is really low. Yes.
Wow. Wow, that is quite interesting, and that answers a lot of questions about some things that I've had about communities. And I've heard that people own property in communities and they purposely allow that property go down and remain
Absolutely.
vacant.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll
You
let it
have
sit there.
it's very easy for like a multi-millionaire or a big corporation to buy up and own a lot of land or a lot of property in one particular area and just sit on it for years and just maybe pay the property taxes on it and stuff like that. And then as the area goes down, they buy a little bit more, and it goes down, they buy a little bit more, and they buy a little bit more. And now they got this big whole area. Then they might come in and do a large wholesale change to the area. And that's what you see in a lot of the major cities with the gentrification and stuff like that. That's definitely it's definitely a strategy. But what you got to
Absolutely.
understand
And
about
what
real
happens
estate,
is when they do that, they get a lot of tax breaks, they get a lot of grants and things like that to say they're
mm-hmm,
coming in to help an area that
mm-hmm,
you've caused to go down. I hate to
mm-hmm.
say that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it definitely can go that way, and not all cases is like that, but it definitely is a model that some people use to acquire a lot of property over a period of time. Because what you got to understand, real estate is a cycle.
Yes,
It's
it's
gonna
a
go up
cycle.
and down. You're gonna have your times, and it's gonna be a great time for you to buy, and another time it's gonna be a good time, and and all in between. It just kind of varies. So you gotta, that's where you having a good quality agent comes in, who can kind of analyze where the market is and put you in best positions to be successful, or where you don't end up in your property upside down, or, you pay more than it's worth, and, things
Yes.
of that nature.
And that's why they need to contact Henning Homes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I got you there. So, why is real estate still a good investment with all of this going on? Why is real estate still a good investment? There's been this narrative that's running around that's telling people it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy. And I did a little research on that, and I can see that initially, yes, maybe, because you have some things that's happening when you're going into the property. However, moving forward, you know what your mortgage is, and what I found out about mortgages is that they go down over time. But
Mm-hmm.
rent is the very reverse; it goes up over time.
Mm-hmm.
So, why is it still a good reason to go into real estate, and why is property a good investment?
Well, one thing I always ask people on the street when I hear things like of that nature, I always ask them, what is something that you bought or you own as a child that is the same price or less as an adult?
Mm, mm.
And the answer is nothing.
Girl
Like,
Scout cookies gone up 400%.
nothing is the price that it was when you was a child. And real estate is no different. The reason you want to jump in is because we have what you have in Memphis, in particular, in this area. You have investors that are salivating because they see the numbers that I just told you, that it's only 25% home ownership. That means everybody's renting. So that's a huge opportunity for an investment company to come in, and they buy up a lot of properties, and then they turn people into renters. In Memphis, we already have a low inventory of houses. And then if they keep coming in buying them up, there's less and less inventory. And what that does is create that you owning a home is going to become more and more valuable, because it's going to be less and less homes for you to purchase.
That's how you create
So,
rarities.
right. So now you have an asset that you can hold on to, and you can kind of play the game that the big boys are playing. These corporations, they are buying these houses. They're not planning on selling anytime soon. And whenever they need more money, they're going to raise your rent, because
Mm,
it's easier way. That's the easiest way. Like, man, we rent a low on money. How can we get more money? Well, we can just raise our rents on all the properties that we own.
yes,
Easy way to
because I
make
was
more money.
I was
But
listening this morning and it was showing that like BlackRock, I think they're up to like
mm-hmm,
60. I don't know, I don't want to give any numbers, but there were several different companies that they named, but 60,000 individual properties,
mm-hmm,
single family homes.
mm-hmm,
One of them had 80,000 single family homes, and another job market has emerged with that, and that's rental property management.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so that's something that people can look into as well, because Warren Buffett did say that they thought about buying these properties back in the 80s and 90s when they first started talking about it. The biggest problem was, how are they going to manage them? And so property
right.
management is a
Yeah, because
huge emerging market now.
it is a huge emerging market, because it's becoming more of these things where, everything is getting more digital and getting more spaced out. But the thing about it is, when you're dealing with people, you still need people in a lot of instances. People
Yeah.
don't like calling and talking to an automated service. And if you're living in Memphis and you got an issue with your property, call anybody who lives in California. It just doesn't give you that peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just having more and more people based out of the area that you're operating in is always going to be a leg up for those people. But like, these corporations, they're not playing fair. They're coming in, they're looking at real estate like an asset class, just like
Mm-hmm.
stocks or anything else. And they're looking at a way to manipulate it the best way possible in their favor. And so it's less and less houses are going to be available, less and less affordable houses are going to be available. The only option is going to be, in a few years, is going to be a lot of properties for you to rent, and it's not going to be a lot for you to buy. And if you want to buy one, it's going to be really expensive. And I think that's kind of where we're headed long term. And I think that's why it's best to put a strategy in to own a home. And if you own a home, make sure you protect it with everything, whether it's insurance, whether it's a living trust. You know, we got to start talking about these things as a way to protect our assets in our family. So you have this asset in your family, and what happens sometimes too is you have a family member, your grandmother passes away. She owned grandma and granddad owned that house. They pass it down to the kids. The first thing the kids do is sell it. And it's not, and I'm not knocking it in no way because different circumstances requires it.
Knock it, brother. Tell them why
But
they don't need to
in
sell
some
grandmama
instances,
house.
you're holding on to a generational asset.
Yes.
That you could maybe find something else to do with, to monetize, or to better utilize it to make it something that you can keep in your family. Because I mean, you know, if you got everybody in the family, everybody's not growing in your family. There's gonna be some nieces, there's gonna be some nephews, there's gonna be some younger cousins. It's gonna be somebody who could take advantage of that property and have a place to live or something like that down the road. And I think we got to start looking at these houses as assets, like just like that, that we can utilize and do a lot of things with.
Well, look, tell them again why they need to hold on to grandmama's and granddaddy's property, because I'm from Mississippi and we have a thing that you don't sell land. The house that I was born in, my father purchased it, purchased the land from his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me a fourth generation landowner.
Oh, fantastic.
My grandmother, my mother on her grandmother and grandfather's side in South Mississippi, there are hundreds of acres of land down there
Mm-hmm.
between the two families that we all hold on to. I don't really know the roots of all of it, but we won't sell that land. And my wife and I recently started to accumulate property ourselves because we know the value of having that land, and some of it has timber on it, some of it is grown up, and then we have a couple of rental houses. But please stress to them why they do not sell grandmama and granddaddy's house. That's hustling backwards.
Right. You have a huge asset that your grandparents or your family has sacrificed and went through so much for. And a lot of times we don't even get that story of
Right.
how they came to get the land or how they came to own the house. You know, it's, you know, these back then, especially, it's hard to get a house now, but back then, you know, it was because of redlining and things of that nature, it was pretty much impossible to get a house for a minority. So, you got this huge, you know, these people did this and they maintained this house. They have raised 3 or 4 generations in this household. You watched them raise your mama, you, and maybe your kids or some of your younger cousins have, you know, been in that house all in that lifetime of you being, you know, living. And you're letting that kind of go just for a few dollars
In a good time.
in a good time, just so
That's
so
really
you can
what
take
it
a
is, because
trip,
you're
so you
not
can take a
getting that much for it.
vacation, so you can, you know, like I said, now everybody's not doing it that way. Some people are doing it and being smart about it and doing the right things, but a lot of us just don't have the education and the know-how of things that we can do that will allow us to keep these in our family. But I think the big significance of it is just the value. You never know. Like for example, it was probably some families who out in Mason, Tennessee, is out there exit 35, out there like exit
Yes.
32, and right now they're building a Ford plant out there. If your family owned 5 acres of that land that those people wanted to come get, and they probably bought it for $10,000 or $5,000, which is astronomical in 1988 for a piece of land, but now they're buying that land from you for 250,000, 300,000, and opposed to you just selling to somebody who just, you know, wanted to come by and get it. So you hold these things, you never know what's going to happen. Like you said before, they're not making any more land, you know. So if you own a large amount of it, do just be very cautious when you have these type of assets, because there are so many different avenues you could do with it. Like you was talking about timber, you could cut down the trees. I saw a dude online, he buys a lot of land and he cuts down the trees and sells it to tissue companies.
Yes.
So they can
Yes.
make toilet tissue out of it. If you got the, I mean, it's like all type of things you can buy so it's all type of opportunities you could do before you even sell the land. If you got a lot of trees on it, you might say, hey, I want to cut down some of the trees and sell the, firewood or
Right.
whatever. But it's like,
Right.
there's so many industries and businesses you may not be aware of. Agriculture is becoming real big again.
It's
People
gonna
are
have
getting more
to.
into agriculture. So you might have somebody in the family who decides, hey, I want to take it up and I want to take great granddaddy's land and he had a farm, I want to start back farming. So it's just like all those opportunities that you have, you just want to be kind of protective of them when you have them in your hand.
Well, you've just shared a lot with us, and I really thank you for it, because it is important that we're educated and know the value of land and the value of property. Because even if you have the land for collateral, land is money. If you
Right,
have land, you can go to the bank and talk to them about something. Now you want to pay it back so you can keep the land, but anytime you have property, you have money.
right,
That's the bottom line, and I've always taught that. And uh, our first piece of rental property, it was very difficult to hold on to that property because we were young, we were buying a home, and we had a home that we was trying to keep. We had renters who wouldn't pay. It was very. There were many times I wanted to sell, but we pushed through it, and it has finally come to a space where now we can do some things with it. Like, it's sitting vacant now, but that's because I'm getting ready to do some work on it. It's 20 years old now. I'm gonna replace the roof
right.
and things like that. So, well, it's more than 20 years old now, but we're getting ready to replace the roof. So property is always good to have. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that with us today. Is there anything that you'd like to share in closing?
I just want to say that we have a ton of down payment assistance programs here in the Memphis metro area that are centered around getting, your finance for your home. And we're one of the few cities that still have a lot of programs like that available. You're not gonna go to Atlanta and find anything like this, Houston, places like that. They may have some kind of program where they'll pay your down payment, but it's normally income based. A lot of time you have to make such a low amount of money. But in Memphis, you can be a thriving business professional and still find a program that'll cover your down payment and closing expenses. And a lot of them you need a minimum of as low as 600. You can probably still get, you can still, well, not probably get, I know of a program, if you have a minimum 600 score, you can still get your down payment and closing covered. All the way up, and some go up to like 640 and 680 and stuff like that. But there is a lot of down payment assistance programs. So don't be afraid out here and try to buy a home. They are still giving away money. I have clients that receive checks at closing because the money they're paying out is less than the money that the program is providing, and they let them keep their extra money. So I'll say that. And one home hack, if you are a current homeowner and you're looking to get some of the interest down, if you make one extra payment towards your principal for the year, you will cut 7 years off of your amortization of buying a home. So most loans are 30 years. So if you come out and you pay an extra, say your payment is $1,500 a month, you make one extra $1,500 payment to your principal directly, you will shave 7 years off of that 30. So that's just one home hack I have. But definitely, I have my information here available. So if you want to talk with me, I'll be happy to talk with you and talk about some of these strategies to do with your current home, grandmama home, or help you find one to buy. I'll do it all.
All right. Well, we thank you, Mr. Adrian Henning, the 6'7" realtor with Kaiser Homes. We appreciate you, and you're going to have to come back and share with us again, because we know that there are some people out there that want to go on this journey and learn more about buying property. So get ready to do your homework so you can come back and give us some more information
Absolutely,
again.
man. Thanks so much for having me, man. I
Absolutely. I
appreciate it.
appreciate
Thank you
this,
so
man. This
much.
was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching It's the Heart Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. This is the podcast for people who found their passion and walking into their purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Terry Ross. And remember to enjoy the journey. Someone wishes they were in your shoes.